Hey everyone, welcome back to Cincinnati Zoo Tales. I'm Jenna.
And I'm Mark. We've got a fun show lined up for all you listeners today. It's an update show. These are some of my favorite shows. We're following up on a story that we had back in the fall, and we've got a couple returnees who decided that we weren't too off-putting and came back to spend some more time with us.
Willing to talk to us.
Yeah, so thank you all for joining us. We're being joined today by members of our primate care team, specifically our gorilla care team. So it's really exciting stuff. We're being joined by Shaina Baker and Grace Malloy. So thank you both for taking the time out of your day. We know you're super busy. Thanks for joining us.
Sure, yeah.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, I guess, can you guys just start off a little bit telling us how things are going in the primate world, and then we'll go into our update that we have.
I feel like things are great.
Yeah.
All of our groups are pretty great. We've had some changes in animals that we care for and no longer care for. They've moved to greater pastures down at Simon Point. But yeah, I mean, things are going pretty well.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a lot of change just in the last couple years, really. Well, I guess it hasn't been a couple years. I still think the indoor gorilla habitat, I still call it the new habitat. It's probably been, 6 or 7 years now, I bet. But I still call it the new habitat. So I feel like you all have dealt with a lot of change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
So you guys primarily take care of gorillas and some monkeys, and you guys get to take care of the ringtailed lemurs, right?
Yes.
They are so fun. I feel like I don't catch them out often, but I heard them making noise for the first time.
Yeah, they'll call, yeah.
I've been here for like 15 years and I've never heard their call. And I was here with my son and we were just walking and we went to the Komodo dragon area and then we looked at the lemurs both before and after that, and then we walked away and all of a sudden I heard this sound and I was like, what is that? And we ran back and a huge crowd followed me and it was a really crazy noise. I did not expect that
It's
from
a weird
them.
noise for sure. I feel like with all the construction from Elephant Trek too, they've just been more paying attention to things going on.
So they're more alert now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I feel like there's more birds around there. I don't know if that's actually because of the Elephant Trek construction or what, but I feel like Ivan is just always on the lookout.
He's
now,
definitely that call is an alarm. It's kind of a warning call. And even too when they see just large things like birds, even just large birds flying over.
Okay.
And stuff, they are. They can be a prey animal in a sense. So it's definitely a warning thing, and it's like a howl. It's like a ooh. So
Ivan's face when he does it is the cutest thing ever. If you ever hear it, make sure you run over there to see it.
Definitely.
Yeah, the lemurs are out. They don't get a ton of time out during the year because they're small and they're very sensitive to temperatures. They live in Madagascar. And so their temperature cutoff is 50 degrees.
Wow.
So that's a huge chunk of the year.
Yeah.
They mostly get out from May to, we try to push it into October.
Yeah.
They're great. They're great to work with. And Ivan is awesome. He just turned 21 this year in May. So
how long is their normal,
So typically kind of around there.
Okay.
Even really more into their mid-teens, I would say. But Ivan, I'm pretty familiar with his background at Duke Lemur Center and his relatives, and a lot of the males that he's related to have lived well into their early 30s.
Wow.
Yeah,
So hopefully he'll be
fingers
around.
crossed.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Ivan. What's the social structure like for these guys?
They are a matriarch, female dominant society.
Okay.
So males are low on the totem pole. And females rule. And it is really interesting because there will be the dominant female, and then usually it's a matriarch or a matrilineal line is her offspring tend to kind of take over.
Okay.
But that's not always guaranteed. There is a lot of competition for that top spot, and a lot of it is based off of hormones. So that top female actually produces a higher amount of testosterone than the rest of the females and stuff to keep that position. And then the dominant female usually actually produces more twins than the non-dominant female.
Wow.
So twins are pretty common, but then a lot of the lesser or the subordinate females end up producing more singletons than twins.
That is so interesting.
So yeah, it's really, really cool. And then their olfactory system is a huge part of their way of communicating with each other. You can see that lemurs in general, they're considered prosimians, so they're the more quote-unquote primitive primate. They rely higher on their sense of smell like, cats or dogs would. And they can also, they're technically considered cathemerals, so they are active during both day and night. And
I just learned a new word.
I'll say, wait, what was that word again? One more time for me.
Wow, now I'm like, wait, did I say it wrong?
No.
It's cathemeral, I believe.
Okay.
I'll double check it. But so they can be active during both day and night, which is why they have huge eyeballs, just like a nocturnal species would. They have a special lens in there called the tapetum lucidum that takes in light a certain way and then reflects it back into the cone. So they're just like a really, really cool species to work with. I get really excited about it.
We had no intentions of learning about ringtailed lemurs today.
I'm locked in.
We'll just have to schedule another episode.
Yeah.
We can go on about-
World Lemur Day is in October, I believe.
Okay,
so,
yeah, we'll have to put that on the list
Lemurs
because
are really
I have a
cool.
lot to learn. So.
I know, I want to ask more questions, but I don't want to get started.
The whole reason we met today was to get an update on one of our gorillas, Gladys. So you guys get to take care of the gorillas. Mm-hmm. And I always do this, but before we get into the story, do you just want to tell us how many gorillas we have and just a tiny update on the gorillas?
Yeah, so we have 11 gorillas total, one of them being Mbeli's group. So they're our family group. It's Mbeli and 4 girls with him. Chewy, who's kind of the older, more mature girl out of the group.
The real adult.
Yes. Chewy, and then Gladys, and then Mona and Elle, her younger half-sisters.
Okay.
Mona and Elle are crazy, wild girls. Gladys, it's been funny actually to see, since she's been pregnant, she's kind of hanging back more with Chewy and acting like a grown-up now.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in your kid activity.
Yeah, Elle and Mona will be goofing off, and she's just kind of watching them now with Chewy, look at those kids being crazy, judging them.
How old are Elle and Mona now?
Elle just turned 10.
She'll be.
Or she's about to
10.
turn 10.
So they're both of their birthdays are in August,
Okay.
and then so they'll be 11 and 10 this year.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Elle is the big 10 this year.
Mm-hmm. Big 10.
And so 10 is finally adult
Oh, okay.
years in gorilla.
Okay.
So she'll be a grown up, which is hard for some people to believe because everybody still thinks of Elle as the
still a
baby. She's still so little too, which is so funny. And then we also have a bachelor group of 3 boys. They came to us, I think it's been 2 years now, or has it been 3?
I think
been
this
here-
summer will be 3.
That sounds right, yeah. So,
Time
the bachelor
flies.
group, they're all half brothers. They've lived together their whole
No,
lives.
2 years. Sorry.
2 years?
2 years this summer. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, time is just, I can never keep track of
Yeah,
it
we
can't.
here.
Since COVID, it's lost all meaning.
Yeah.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, there's before COVID and there's after COVID, yeah. But the boys are really cool. They're the first bachelor group that we've ever had here at Cincy, so that's been really fun to experience and just work with them. They're honestly our most kind of low maintenance and chill troop that we
They're
have.
Such awesome boys.
They're so
That's nice. You have one of those groups.
Yes,
Yeah.
You don't have to worry
they're
about
just-
them too much.
mhm. So it's Congo is the youngest brother, but he's actually the more dominant one. He's just because he's massive. You guys
Okay.
have seen Congo
Huge.
before. He's the big guy out there. He's 400 pounds.
Wow.
420.
Yeah.
425.
And then Pende is the middle child. He's kind of classic middle child Pende. And then Chip is the oldest out of the 3. And they're all half brothers. They've lived together their whole lives and they do really well together. And then our third group is Ndume's group, and that consists of Ndume, Malinzi, and Mara. So Malinzi and Mara are mother-daughter, and then Ndume's just kind of their guy. I call them our geriatric group because they're just old guys and they just chill. And so it's Mara and the geriatrics, which she loves it that way because she can kind of control everything in that troop.
Control for sure.
Yeah. I'm sure if people have watched that troop before, they've seen Mara do run-bys on him before, and she never really does anything other than just shows off and smack
just needs to
smacks
assert
her.
Displays a little
Yes,
bit.
yeah, but people always get a kick out of that. Whoa.
She's, in my opinion, she's definitely one of our more feisty of
Yeah,
the gorillas
she
we
is.
work with. But I mean, not necessarily in terms like with like she just like I said, she wants to assert herself all the time.
Yeah.
She's the smallest girl ever.
Little.
She's actually very, very small.
Yeah.
She's only like 170-ish
Oh, wow.
pounds. And so in comparison, just relative comparison, like Elle, Mona, and Gladys are all right around that weight too, and they're
Young.
like almost 20 years younger than
Wow.
she is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
How long do they typically grow for? Like, at what age does their growth slow down?
Depends on what type of growing they're doing, I guess.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, I feel like Mona is kind of topping out a little bit.
I feel like she's finally coming into
Yeah.
herself. She's
Okay.
very lanky.
Yes,
Okay.
and she's finally like kind of filling out.
Yeah.
Elle, I feel like is just constantly like
She's been a tank for a few years.
she's
now.
not getting taller. She's just getting like more beefy.
Just
Which,
filling out.
yeah. But yeah, I feel like it's probably around like
Yeah.
10, 11.
Kind of the same
around
as
there.
when they kind of
Become adults.
Yeah.
or-
Yeah.
Maybe that just a few more years of like filling out,
Okay.
but not significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got 11 gorillas total, and they're separated out into the 3 groups.
Yeah.
Will you talk a little bit about like what the logic is behind having these 3 groups and why the groups kind of stay managed separately?
Yeah.
So we really just try to mimic their natural history, right? So typically you would find Western lowlands in a harem, which is one male surrounded by a bunch of unrelated females. And then there is evidence that some bachelor groups exist, but it's not closely followed. They might kind of like join up maybe for a little bit during the day or something, forage, and then kind of go their separate ways, which is actually kind of how we mimic their management anyway. Like they're together during the day, and then they kind of do their own thing at night just to reduce any sort of
Friction.
tension,
Yeah,
you
or
know,
like
whatever.
stress.
Yeah.
So Detroit actually did like a study
Yeah,
before the
they
boys
did.
came here because they used to keep them together in a shared space overnight, and they did a whole study on their like testosterone levels and all that stuff, like months worth of like research, and they found that when they're actually in like separated spaces, they actually like can relax more at night.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
That makes
So
sense.
that's how we.
It's kind of like they want to be near each other, but it's like I want to do my own thing
Yeah.
and not have to worry about
Yeah.
what the other one's
I
doing.
want to see you from afar,
Yes.
but I don't
Yeah.
actually want to be with
Yes,
you.
exactly.
Yep. But they're all in the wild too. I know they're like very elusive to
Yeah.
find, which is
Okay.
why there's so little research on bachelor
Yeah.
groups. But they are out there.
Yeah.
They're just doing their thing.
Interesting.
So yeah, we just really try to mimic the patterns that we see in the wild, and that's why they're managed the way that they are. We don't like switch or mix groups up where you might see that in bonobos or chimpanzees, because they kind of naturally follow a fission fusion pattern in the wild. So really, all of us are just trying to mimic what they
Yeah.
do.
And the building is actually was
Built
built,
for it,
so
yeah.
that they don't see the other groups, and like so like if one group's on the outdoor, one's on the indoor, they're never like seeing each other, like
Okay.
looking at each other or anything. They definitely know the other are there, but it's not like they're not looking at each other all the
Yeah.
time and like being like, I want to come over to your troop.
Yeah.
So the last time we talked with you guys, it was an update about Gladys and the incredible care she got after breaking her arm, and she's doing really well now. You mentioned, and we've shared it on our zoo social media already, that Gladys is pregnant, so that's super exciting.
Yeah, for sure.
Who is the father?
That's in belly.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
So was that like a species survival recommendation? And
Yep.
awesome.
Yes.
Yes.
And to just tell us about it. How's it been? When is she due? How excited are you guys?
Super
We're
excited.
super hyped. It's been 10 years
I was gonna
since
say,
we've had a kid.
okay, yeah.
Since Elle, yeah. And then obviously this is 150 years
Yeah,
for
it's
the
perfect.
zoo anniversary. And the cool thing is that Elle was our 50th gorilla that was born here, which is why she has the name Elle for the Roman numeral number 50.
Oh, okay.
And then, so then this kid will be born in 150 years of us existing.
Oh, do you have name ideas already coming up?
We definitely have
Yeah.
a lot of brainstorming. Yeah. Some of it we try to relate to the 150 in some sort of way. I don't know if that's even what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, their gestation period's about 8.5 months, so she'll be due that window. So we started out like when the breeding rec, when that was given, we start testing for pregnancy on a weekly basis.
Okay.
And then we monitor for breeding, obviously, and make note of it and everything so that we can reference back to it. But obviously, we can't catch every single time that they're breeding. And so we do those weekly pregnancy tests, and we finally got a positive towards the end of January.
Can you tell everyone listening, like, what does a
yeah.
pregnancy test look like for
It's
a
just
gorilla?
a normal human pregnancy
Yeah.
test.
All right. So how do you collect the urine?
We basically just wait for them to urinate, and then it just kind of flows out. And
Okay.
then we get a pipette. Thank you.
Nice little
Yeah.
sample.
Yeah.
There are overhead chutes in their holding, so
That
like
too,
if
yeah.
we're lucky, she'll do it in an overhead chute.
Okay, you could just-
But also there are certain like areas of their spaces where the floors
Slopes.
are like specifically sloped
Yeah.
for that idea. So
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Use a human, regular, you
Yeah.
regular human test.
Amazing.
And then, the other girls that don't have breeding recs, they're on regular birth control, so oral birth control. So
Yeah.
very similar.
Yeah.
So you pulled her, she was on birth control, you pulled her off and you knew, like, about when it could potentially, like, the breeding and everything might start.
Yeah.
And then you
yeah.
just start testing from there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Awesome.
And this is her first baby, right? Never.
Yes.
First time.
All
yeah.
new.
First
new
time
thing
dad,
for her,
too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yay.
awesome.
Uh-huh.
That's exciting.
Yeah, he's pretty young. He's what, 23 now?
23.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or how's she been so far? Are you all like more nervous for how she's gonna do with the baby, or are you pretty confident? How are you feeling?
Super confident.
Depends who
Confident.
you ask on the team. I am super confident.
Most of us are super confident.
Yeah.
I think everyone's just a little nervous because you just never know what's
Yes.
going to happen.
Sure. Sure.
Even just like, the birth process could, there's been cesarean sections. Not
Yeah.
to,
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think that just happened recently. I
Yeah.
can't remember where, but there was a C-section.
but I think that she'll be an awesome mom. And she was around when Elle and Mona growing up, seeing that. She witnessed all of that, so she knows, she's seen what to do, she knows what to do, and we're setting her up for success.
Yeah, tell us about some of the ways that you're doing, like, setting her up for success that people may not think about that, or
Yeah.
you're training her for.
So, I don't know about you guys, but I know that if I were to suddenly get pregnant and have a baby, I would be like, I don't know what I'm doing. You go to, what are they called, the Lamaze classes?
Oh, yeah, there's all sorts of birth
Yeah,
classes.
so we're kind of trying to mimic that in a way, obviously not to put it in human terms, but we want to prepare her for, like, making sure she's picking out the baby, bringing the baby to, her chest for breastfeeding, and desensitizing what that might feel like, and then just kind of what we would consider quote unquote maternal behaviors, just to maybe if she doesn't show immediate in maternal instincts, we can just kind of guide her along with those training behaviors or that are through operant conditioning. So
I think that's, like, really smart and something
Yeah.
you can't do with
Yeah.
all the animals
Right,
we work
for
with.
sure.
So it's
Right.
really important that you're doing it. Especially, she was hand-raised, right? Because her mother wasn't taking care of her. So you guys have been through it with a few gorillas now, and I'm
Yes.
sure you would prefer that Gladys takes care of
we
this baby.
definitely want her to take care of the
Yeah.
baby.
Yes, so, like, setting her up for success is awesome, and it's great that she has gotten to see other babies being
Yeah,
raised too.
exactly.
So like, if you're teaching a gorilla how to hold a baby, like, what does that look like? You can't go in with her. Are you holding a baby and showing her how nice it is? Or like,
So that's kind of been a tricky behavior to teach her.
I bet, yeah.
So she picks up her random objects beautifully. She knows to pick it up. But then right now, and I said to my team leader, I was like, well, we're going to have no problem with her showing us the baby because she wants to pick up the object and then show me the object.
Okay.
And that's another good thing too, is we want to have enough trust for her to show us the baby so we can look at it, make sure it's good, healthy, like anything going on there. So that's actually another behavior. But right now, it's kind of just shaping the behavior of like, okay, you picked it up, so now I need you to kind of, I'm basically targeting her to bring that object to her chest.
Okay.
Which is a little tricky.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of shaping it and molding it, and she's slowly getting it. But, I mean, she'll do it, but I don't know if she's quite made the exact connection of like, this
Okay.
is what I need to do in this moment.
Yeah.
So, we're getting there. I have a few months.
You have a few more months. I was
Yeah.
about to say, plenty of time.
Yeah, I don't think you've mentioned when she's due.
So her window is the latest or the earliest would be late August.
Okay.
All the way up until October.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we'll start around that time period in late August, we'll start a 24-hour birth watch on her.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And can you guys tell, like, from just looking at her that she has a baby in her belly now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, her belly's getting big now. Yeah.
Yeah, I sat down in front of her like last Friday or Sunday, and I looked at her and I was like, "You're huge."
It's more. I feel like it's more noticeable when she's like standing up, like working on enrichment and stuff. Like you can see it more then.
And you can see it's like low.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so interesting because some animals you can't, like, if you didn't know any better, you wouldn't know that a giraffe is pregnant until the very end.
right.
Or, like, you know, a hippo, it's
Yeah.
hard to see, but I can imagine that it's.
Honestly,
yeah.
like before the zoo even announced it, I was like, if people are paying attention,
They'll
like
know.
they might
Yeah.
start thinking, like
yeah,
putting
it
two
is
and two
pretty
together.
obvious.
Aw.
And how's she changed so far since the pregnancy? Like, are you seeing any behavioral or changes with her dynamics with the rest of the group or anything like that?
So, I think like the main thing that we kind of already touched on was just how she's like kind of hanging back more and just a little more like reserved. She, like I said, she's kind of hanging back with Chewy more. She's definitely still close with Mbelly. Like he's keeping an eye on her.
What will his role be once the baby is born? Anything?
I mean, he will play a role, but it's not going to be like a provisioning role or anything that you would see in some other social like primate groups.
His is more so like protection.
Yes,
I feel like
exactly.
he's gonna keep her safe because she has like the baby.
Yeah.
So.
So typically when they have kids, your rank kind of goes up a little bit.
Oh, okay.
So all of a sudden you're a little bit more of a priority because the kid is the priority and the kid's safety is a priority. So it'll be more dynamic changes after baby is born.
Okay.
I wouldn't have even thought of that, but that makes total sense. Yeah, it's like the leader of the troop wants to make sure that the baby's going to be taken care of, so
Exactly.
he keeps the
Yes.
mom by his side a little bit more.
Yes. Yeah.
He's like, stay behind me.
Will you need to separate Gladys from the group when she like has the baby, or will they get to all stay together? And
So initially, we do have a birth management plan that we follow. Initially, like kind of hopefully during the birth process, if we catch it, like yes, it'll be like a first separation, but then we'll slowly like maybe after we've seen kind of like a maybe successful nursing and stuff, slowly letting members back in.
Okay.
And, so it's not like a long period
Yeah.
of time or anything. It's
Yeah.
hopefully like 24
Yeah,
hours.
because the longer that we would keep her separated, the more she would probably start getting stressed out.
Yeah.
She doesn't not like
And
to
the
be by
group,
herself.
too.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It's basically like make sure maternal instincts kick in,
Yes.
make sure she's taking care of the
Yes.
baby, and then move on with reintroductions.
Exactly.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And you guys have mentioned our girl Gladys. She's been through a lot. We touched on a little bit of, if you're listening to this, you're kind of wondering, we did do a whole podcast about everything she went through in the fall. Will you kind of just recap really quickly, like how her injury was, how her like rehab, and how much she's recovered from it? Because I think that's kind of plays a role with everything she's been through the last 6 or 8 months.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, she acts like she didn't even have a broken arm.
Yeah.
She's pretty normal in her movements. I mean, you can tell. I mean, when you look at her, that her arm is more of like a 90-ish degree angle, but
Yeah.
at the elbow, which is where it was right in the humerus, right above the elbow joint where her arm broke. And it was a full-on break. It was not a fracture. It was full-on clean break, 19 screws, surgery, everything.
Yeah, go listen to our last podcast about her because it was crazy.
Yeah,
It's
it was
crazy.
a lot.
It's crazy.
And
The world's first titanium cast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I mean, now she's just normal gorilla.
Yeah.
Again.
We were doing like physical therapy
Yes.
with her for a little while, but then she kind of lost the motivation to train as much when she was like she went through a period of having kind of like morning sickness.
yeah, tell us about that. I bet a lot of people would be surprised to hear this.
Yeah, so she was just really not wanting to eat her regular stuff anymore. It was at first it was like kind of the citrusy stuff. She was like, no. Like, so we would like try offering it to her and she would just like politely put her finger up and be like, no, and like push it back out. And like she did look pretty miserable. She was like she looked tired. She just looked like she had been through it, and we were like,
were you guys able to give her any medication for like anti-nausea or?
I mean,
tried.
We definitely tried,
But
but
she straight up really just did not have an appetite.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm good.
yeah.
But like Shaina said, like she looked miserable. Like when we would come in the mornings, like her, like you could just see how, like the bags under her eyes. And
I bet a lot of moms can relate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was. Sorry, I did not mean to.
No, you're fine.
Like tough to do training, right?
Oh, yeah.
of-
So-
There was no
not
training.
eating.
Yeah. Training is like they have to like participate in
Yeah.
that. If they don't want to participate, we can't make them. You know, we're not going to be like, get over here right now, or you're in trouble. Like, I'm going to come in there and get you. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. Like they have to want to do it. And if they're very food motivated animals. They will do pretty much anything for some grapes. So. If she had no interest in really any of that, so, and like kind of the same with getting medication to them, like you can try to hide it and stuff, like you might with kids, like, but like she was just no, like absolutely everything we tried, she just turned up her nose and like walked away.
Yeah, and, like, this will make you feel better.
Yep.
We did, and it really was, like, I know that morning sickness can affect you at any time of the day, but it truly was like mostly the mornings. In the afternoons we would see a gradual increase in her appetite, and then it would just revert back in the next morning.
We even had to do, so right now with their normal care schedule, they do separations in the AM and PM. We even had to work in like a midday separation so that we could try to get her stuff. And
he's considered like second, for lack of a better term, like second trimester if we're a gorilla.
She is now in her
second
trimester.
Is she like eating better now?
She's pretty much normal.
Yeah.
Okay. Gladys has always been super picky when it comes to eating, but she's pretty much back to normal in terms of her appetite.
And now you're able to do a little bit more training, and you're doing ultrasounds, right? Which I'm sure is super fun to see. Can you tell everybody what that looks like? How do you do an ultrasound with a gorilla?
She's now at approximately 21 weeks as we record this. Basically, there's always a protective mesh in between them and ourselves. So, and it's kind of tricky because you have to get the probe at the right angle and the right spot on her stomach, and she has all of this hair, so much hair that you have to work through. And during that first trimester morning sickness stuff, she obviously wasn't motivated to train. And then when you had to get the gel out for the ultrasound, which in the past has never been an issue, when they do their cardiac ultrasounds. But all of a sudden it was like off the table. She's like, she would literally walk away from me as soon as I would bring up the gel.
Does it have a smell to it?
I think it's just the way it feels, and that it's a little cold, and it's ooey gooey.
She's like, I already don't feel good. Like,
because I actually tried different substances or different things that were also ooey gooey, or just like, and she did not. It was all of it. She was just like, don't touch me with that. And because I was like, is it just the gel or is it everything? Finally, towards the end of that first trimester, all of a sudden it just snapped into place, and it was good. It was fine. She was staying put and actually participating. So for her in particular, we do her ultrasounds with her standing up. In the past, Anu and Asha, when they were pregnant here, we did their ultrasounds when they were sitting and they were comfortable like that. But Gladys actually really likes to stand when it comes to interacting with us. So she stands typically on her right leg, and her left leg is up. And it actually does give me a really good angle to get her lower belly up to the mesh.
Belly, right?
And then I'm able to get the probe at a pretty good spot on that low belly. And then we have vet staff has been working with us, and then we finally recruited our human sonographer. Her name is Marianne. She's retired now. She was a sonographer for 42 years, and she worked with us during Anu's pregnancy. So 10 years later, she's back, and it was really cool during the first ultrasound that she had with her last week. She right off the bat saw the baby in there and was like, that's a 20-week-old baby. Could like pinpoint all of the body parts, like that's the skull, that's the bladder, And when we look at the ultrasound, we're just like, there's some blob moving in there. So it was really, really cool. So we're hyped to have her back on the journey.
Yeah, but she's hyped too. What a cool thing she gets to do.
Kidding.
How often do you plan on doing the ultrasounds then moving forward?
Right now, bi-weekly.
Bi-weekly. Okay.
Yes.
That's
And
going to be
then-
really exciting to kind of track it as it gets bigger and
Yes,
bigger.
and we'll take measurements and stuff along the way. And once we actually get like a little bit more of a clearer image that's more recognizable, we will like share that with the public and stuff like that. But right now, like I said, when you look at it, it's just like it moves around a lot.
Yeah.
It's just like all these different moving parts, and you're not really sure what you're looking at unless you're a professional.
Hey, I always think that with every ultrasound I've seen. I'm like, how do these people
Yeah, I
know what they're
know.
looking at? It doesn't make any sense to me,
Right.
but I'm impressed.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, is there anything else going on with Gladys or the gorillas or anything with the pregnancy that we haven't touched on that you want to share before we do trivia?
I don't think so. Not off the top of my head.
Did you have anything else?
I got nothing, but I will say, like, can we just go ahead and lock you guys in now for a return episode after this baby? Because we're going to have to hear all about that.
Yeah.
Obviously, everything's worked out. I'm sure it's going to be crazy stressful for all of you guys for a little while. But
Of course.
Well,
Yeah.
things
Hopefully
clear
not.
up.
Hopefully Gladys does all the work.
Yeah.
And
She'll do her job.
Yeah,
She'll do her
will.
job.
She'll be great.
Bella's gonna be a great dad.
That's the
Yeah.
vibes I need. Yeah.
I have no doubt in her.
But yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back for an update.
Yes.
Sounds
Awesome.
good.
Yeah.
Well, I do have some trivia.
All right.
If you all are up for it today.
Sure.
It's gorilla themed trivia.
All right.
So, first question we've got up is mostly for Jenna because Grace already said the answer in the terms of our discussion. So, no pressure, Jenna. How well
We'll
were you
see
listening?
how this goes.
First question. Obviously, we're waiting on a baby right now. What is the gestation period for a gorilla?
About 8.5 months.
Right
but
on the money.
they're still doing, you don't know, right? We're still learning more about this. Grace taught me this. Yes.
Yeah, I think that, well, I mean, me, a lowly, I'm not a biologist, right? But, I'm not a research scientist. But I think that, a lot of the, just like how we were touching on bachelor groups and stuff earlier, I think that a lot of more research can be done because a lot of the research that we have that we're basing our knowledge off of is a little antiquated.
Yeah.
And I think that, science in the world is always changing around us. So, I think that 8.5 months is a great estimate, but I think that down the road, a more definite answer could be.
I'm sure it's interesting too because most women
And
are
everybody's
about
different.
40 or
Yeah.
41
Right.
weeks,
Yeah.
and then I'm sure there's differences with gorillas too. Like some go
Absolutely.
early, some go long.
Yeah.
And there's there's a lot of give and take with that, and then of course, like you mentioned, they're probably pretty tricky to know exactly when they got pregnant in the
Right.
wild, and the
Right.
research would not be super simple with
Yeah.
that. So, but about 8.5 months.
8.5. You're right on the money, and I love that you say that because there's always more to learn.
There
and
really
especially
is.
for a species like gorillas they're so secretive in the wild, like you mentioned earlier. So it's like this is a species that's really hard to study and get good data on, and
Yeah.
finally, with zoos and better veterinary care, we're finally starting to get some of the data. And
Yeah.
we've still got a lot to learn.
Right.
Not just with gorillas, with all animals
Yeah.
across the board.
Sure.
All right, next up, you mentioned how similar gorillas are to humans. They even take the same birth control tests we do. What % of DNA is shared between humans and gorillas?
It's technically like 98.7 or something like that.
Yeah, I had everything I found was 98%.
Okay,
so
I was gonna say
right on the money.
Grace like 0.7.
Grace, I'm not a research scientist,
I know,
but I'm
right?
going to do the exact
She
percentage.
taught us a new word.
Right on the money with that one, 2 for 2. Next up, we talked about how, Gladys went through a lot with her broken bones. Her broken humerus. How many bones do gorillas have in their body?
I don't even know how many
I don't
bones
know
a
how
human
many
has.
Yeah,
bones we have.
I would assume.
Oh,
I would
okay.
assume it's the same as we have.
I think that like in their feet, and
More?
like in their like it's a little different.
Okay.
Maybe it's just a
The
structural
feet would make
difference.
sense though because
Yes,
it is more
because of
so
the
like
amount of,
thumbs.
Yeah.
Thumb toes.
juxtaposition.
Thumb toes, maybe a few more bones.
I mean,
in
I'm
there.
gonna say the same as us.
Same as
Yeah.
us?
Which-
do you have a
which
guess?
no idea
You
how
are
many
right.
we
It is the
have.
same as us. You're right.
108.
206.
Yeah, I don't know the amount, but I'm gonna say it's the same as us.
It's the same as us. There's a couple minor, kind of like you both mentioned. It sounds like there's a
Structurally
couple
different,
structural and
Okay.
anatomical differences,
Yeah.
but same number of
For
bones.
sure,
as
in
we
the
have.
hips and the stuff like that, and the hands and feet, and the head, very different.
Mm.
But yeah.
I was so
206.
close. I was only 100.
Just half.
We could squeeze through so many small spaces if we had just half of our bones.
Never fail. To embarrass myself.
All right, next question we've got. This one, I'm curious to see what you all think about. I just read a research paper that is using, I need to learn how to word this. Scientists in this new research are using what body part of a gorilla to identify them in the wild? They're starting to use computer programming.
Their butts.
Their
noses.
Noses, yeah.
That's not new.
The butts may be happening as well, but they're using this like
The butts may be happening as well. Has anyone ever said that sentence before?
No comment.
Okay, but their noses have been used since the 70s when they were originally studied.
Yes.
So it's not anything
But there's
new.
a new way to track it.
Yeah, they're starting to put it into computer tracking data. So like it's almost like a facial recognition technology,
that
it
makes
looks like,
sense.
which seems insane to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, they can do it for us, so why can't you do it for a gorilla too?
Yeah.
I got really excited about butts, I think, because I know that females will actually look at a male's butt, their rears, for like successful reproduction, like attractive type features.
Wow.
So,
Hey, I'm gonna put that info out to any of the next scientists. They need a new research project. All right, we're 4 for 4 so far. 2 more questions left. Jenna, this one was specifically for you. One of the most famous gorillas of all time is named King Kong. How tall is King Kong, the gorilla?
We're talking about the movie?
Yes.
Like 3 stories tall? Is that Godzilla?
That's so you're saying like 30 feet roughly?
Sure.
like an apartment building, like 3 stories.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
Grace, Shaina, do you have any guesses?
Grow up, like
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, he's bigger than
I
that?
would say like almost as tall as a skyscraper.
Yeah.
Oh.
So
I've never
What
seen it.
skyscrapers?
I'll say you're
Around
both
there.
right. There's actually, depending on the interpretation, in some, King Kong is only 18 feet, but he's also as big as 150 feet.
Wow.
In
That's
other,
a trick
yeah.
question.
So it's
though.
kind of, I gave you a range for that one, but his like quote unquote like established height is about 25 feet.
I
So
did
you're
it! I was
super
so close.
But he's giant in some movies, and then in
Okay.
other
That's what I'm
movies he's
thinking.
just like a little bit bigger.
Yeah, who came up with the like established height?
Yeah, that's a good question.
This mutated iguana, like Godzilla, is fighting King Kong.
All right, last question I have for you. My personal favorite gorilla. When did the first Donkey Kong video game release?
I don't know, but I love that game.
I love some Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
It's such a fun game. I
We
know.
have these little like barrels that we use as enrichment, and every time when the gorillas pick it up, I just like envision Kong like
Just
throwing
throwing
the
it
barrel.
down.
Yeah.
What if they went to the zoo and saw a gorilla playing with a barrel, and that's how they came up with this idea? Wait, when was
In
it?
the 1960s.
When was the first Donkey Kong game released?
Oh, was it that early?
Yeah, was
I would
it?
guess
Yeah, like it
1980s.
was.
80s, 60s,
Um,
Shaina?
I'll go with 70s.
70s? She's splitting the difference.
Yeah.
It's actually the 80s.
Oh,
Shaina's got this
okay.
one. So the first one came out in
Awesome.
1981.
Okay,
Okay.
good thing I don't know how many
81.
bones we have, but I know that.
You know the important stuff, alright? Oh man, that's all I got for today though. Thank y'all for being good sports.
Yeah,
Playing
of
along with
course.
us.
Is there anything else before we go into our final question that you guys want to talk about? We missed?
You don't want to talk about how tall King Kong is?
I mean, that's fine.
Go back into that.
As long as it's not a Bigfoot question.
All right. What can I do? What is something we can do to be better stewards of the earth or help gorillas or help any animals? Anything going on you guys got?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that this is probably a repeat, but it's such a simple action that literally anybody can do. You know, we live in the day and age of technology, and I'm sure that we all have some old gadgets or cords or anything lying around. Any of those items can be recycled with us here at the Cincinnati Zoo. So we take any item smaller than laptops. Over at Gorilla World, we have a specific drop box for these electronics and their accessories.
I would say, so you mentioned cords, so
Yes.
chargers too.
Chargers.
Headphones.
I actually didn't know
Yeah.
the chargers part. I didn't see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of that stuff, we'll take it.
Basically any electronic gadget. I know in the past it was like mostly cell phones, but now it's like kind of any
Yeah,
electronic.
it's branched out.
That's good to know,
type
yeah,
of
because
gadget.
you know if you're going through your junk drawers and you find chargers and you're like, I don't know what
there's
this,
so
what does
many,
this
yeah.
cord go to?
Mhm.
Like, what do I do with it? You could just bring it here then.
Yeah, just bring it here, and we send it to this big recycling program. Remind me the name again. EcoCell. Thank you. And then it's based out of Louisville, and then he goes through and recycles things, and that's just how we can reduce some of the invasion of natural habitats that we're getting, like minerals and stuff for these electronics.
It's in gorilla habitat. So.
They're in gorilla habitats. They're in really mostly out of Africa.
Yeah,
based.
and then any like profit he makes off of the things that he's like refurbishing and stuff too, he puts that money directly towards like gorilla conservation.
Yes.
So
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
yeah.
So yeah, if you have anything laying around your house that's smaller than a laptop that's electronic based, you can bring it to the zoo. And there's definitely a drop box off at Gorilla World. And also potentially we think maybe at the front of the zoo that none of us know because we don't.
They'll take it though.
Yes, yeah, they'll take it. Ask
If
somebody
it's
to take
not
it
there,
for
then-
you.
Get to us,
yeah.
for
We'll
sure.
find a way to
Tell
get
them
it.
it's for the gorillas, and
I think there used to be one in the education lobby too, but I don't know if it's
There
still
used to
there.
be,
So.
yeah.
Well, awesome. And there will be World Gorilla Day coming up in September and possibly a baby
Yeah.
also.
Yes.
it'd
So
be nice if it coincides with each other.
yeah, maybe a big celebration all
They
at
planned
once.
it that way.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, ladies, for coming and talking to us again.
Yeah, of
and we're excited to hear how this goes with Gladys. And then also we'll have a ringtail lemur episode we need to do.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
it.
I need to lock in on that one for.
Cool.
Yeah, they're underrated, so.
Yeah, thank y'all so much for your time. We know you're busy. We appreciate you. To all you
course.
listeners out there tuning in, thanks for listening to another episode. And until next time.
Have a good one.